So I thought about doing something a little bit different here, and that is having some playing a little bit of a guessing game because WrestleMania is or WrestleMania season rather is coming upon us very very soon, and the talk of the town is going to be WrestleMania. So I'm not going to try and guess the entire show because you got to figure that that's going to be very difficult to do because you don't exactly know which way the company's going to go for WrestleMania this year. But I'm going to try and guess as much as the show as I possibly as much of the show as I possibly can, and take it from there because this will be WrestleMania, the first WrestleMania in WWE without Vince McMahon at the helm. So I figured that the best way to go about things was to try and do things as far as my WrestleMania coverage a little bit different because this WrestleMania will be a little bit different compared to where it was in past years because again, this is the first WrestleMania without Vince McMahon. Of course, the main talk of the town is going to be Roman Reigns and who Roman Reigns will be defending the title against because the main conversation is, will Roman drop the belt before WrestleMania? And even if Roman does not drop the belt before WrestleMania, will Roman drop the belt at WrestleMania? And I think the fair answer to the question is, it depends on his opponent. Because there are still rumors that Roman Reigns will be going against his cousin The Rock. And if that's the case, then God willing, WWE would not be that ignorant to think having Roman Reigns lose to The Rock would be a good idea after all this time, even if Roman is just pinned by The Rock and does not drop the WWE title. Roman's first loss off this run needs to be who he drops the to, and it needs to be an active wrestler and nobody else. Simple as that. I'm not saying that Roman should not go against his cousin. I'm just saying that if he does, the title does not need to be in the picture. So that is the problem when it comes to WrestleMania, that even though even though the match could happen, I don't think the match needs the WWE title. Because what does The Rock gain from beating his cousin? What does Roman gain from losing to The Rock? What does Roman gain from defending his championship against the guy who's held the title 7 times and also has not held the title since what, 2013? So, that's just my opinion on it though. As far as the one idea, what about having Roman against The Rock on one night and then having Roman defend the title against somebody the next day, aka whoever wins the Royal Rumble? Because the one thing that WWE needs to understand is the fans can't expect them. You can't expect the first Royal Rumble again, the first Royal Rumble without Vince McMahon, to end with The Rock winning the Rumble. Because last year's Royal Rumble underwhelmed the fans. So having 2 years in a row where the Royal Rumble underwhelms the fans, just think about that for a second and understand the fact that if you do have back-to-back Royal Rumbles where the fans are underwhelmed, then the bar is set even higher, or will be set even higher in 2024 for you to impress the fans and surprise the fans. So I would say what you need to do is understand the fact that one thing is for certain, and that is that you need to have somebody win the Royal Rumble that is not The Rock, that you have someone that keeps the fans' interest and brings the fans in for the WrestleMania run. Is it possible that The Rock is not a part of WrestleMania? Is it possible that Roman does not get to fight The Rock? Yes. Yes, 100%. It is possible that Roman does not get to fight The Rock. The problem with that is, and I will say this 100%, that the problem with that is that if The Rock does not get to fight Roman, then what does that mean for for Jay and Sammy's feud? I don't know. Because I would say that puts Sami Zayn or Jey Uso in the running to be the one that challenges Roman Reigns. In my opinion, I'm not saying I have a problem with Cody Rhodes being the guy. I'm not saying I have a problem with Cody Rhodes being the guy. I surely do not, especially with the story they can tell with Cody going after the title and doing the one thing that nobody in his family was able to do, and that is become WWE champion. But that will not be the first time Cody Rhodes was world champion, because Cody Rhodes held the NWA title right after All In, winning it at All In 2018, and holding the title for a month. Yes, he dropped the title back to Nick Aldis in October at the 70th anniversary show, but Cody's been the champion before. WWE does have other options outside of The Rock. They may believe that the money matches The Rock, but just because it may not happen at WrestleMania does not mean it will not happen, in my opinion, or should not happen, or could not happen. In my opinion, the backup plan for Roman versus The Rock should be August, and it should be SummerSlam. Because it's also the fact that WWE is going to need pay-per-views. WWE is going to need pay-per-views and some things to happen during the year, because they're going to be replacing a lot of their pay-per-views. I don't know if it's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be where they're going to be replacing every gimmick pay-per-view, but it is entirely possible that they're going to be replacing most of them, because we already know that Hell in a Cell is gone. But it is also possible that the Money in the Bank pay-per-view is out of commission. It is also possible that Extreme Rules will be gone. And if you needed any indication that TLC is officially dead and buried, that the fact that they are definitively getting rid of gimmick pay-per-views, that gives you another indication. And we got another segue. We're going to drift back to Roman Reigns in a second. But we got another segue. The segue is what I just mentioned, the gimmick pay-per-views. In my opinion, I think it is extremely likely that we may see Money in the Bank at WrestleMania for the first time since the pay-per-view was given its standalone status in, I believe, 2010, when Jack Swagger won Money in the Bank alongside Kane. I could be wrong. It could have been 2011, but I know it was somewhere in that area when the pay-per-view was taken off Money in the Bank, where we actually had 3 Money in the Banks in 1 year, with one Money in the Bank being at WrestleMania and the others being at Money in the Bank. In my opinion, as far as the competitors, I think we need to do this again as we get closer, and we'll get a better picture of who could be in the Money in the Bank match, because we'll know a little bit better who's going to be in Money in the Bank when we get closer, based on the booking that the guys have as we get closer to Money in the Bank. I mean, as we get closer to WrestleMania, rather. And, speaking of special matches, speaking of the legends, speaking of the guys like The Rock, I think the match that we will see, because I think, to a degree, Logan Paul, if he is going to be healthy, if he's going to be ready for it, if he's going to be prepared, then I think that Logan should have a say in who he goes in the ring against at WrestleMania. And I don't think it would be a bad idea keeping his match separate from the other matches, keeping his match separate from the other matches and letting him participate one-on-one against the one guy he wants to participate against, and that being John Cena. Speaking of how much everything relies on The Rock, Roman Reigns, and the Universal title, and the Royal Rumble for that matter, Jimmy and Jay, the Usos, Jay and Sami Zayn have had their issues over the last few months, and it's pretty clear that Jimmy and Jay will be fighting tooth and nail, going back and forth, and there may be something going into WrestleMania between these two men. I could see something happen at the Royal Rumble. I could see a lot happening between now and WrestleMania between these two guys. But the fact of the matter is, the one thing that you need to understand is what happens with Roman Reigns will determine what happens with this match, because I would love to see Sami and Kevin teaming up one-on-one. Teaming up in a tag team match, going against the Usos for the unified tag team titles. Because that is the best way to go. I know the money match is Sami versus Jay, but there is no reason to burn that match at WrestleMania. Save it for SummerSlam, save it for down the road, save it for later in the year, because there is a lot more build to do. And you can even play up Jimmy and Sami's friendship. You could work Solo Sikoa in there somehow. There's ways to do it. There are ways to go about it to bring it on. And I think that outside of Bray Wyatt, that the guy that they brought in to do long-term storytelling needs to be working with Sami and Jay to figure out the best way to get this feud going for most of 2023, because I think this feud has all the makings to be a long-term feud. One of the rare times a long-term feud has the opportunity to actually break out and actually pay off in a positive way for WWE, because more often than not, WWE does not have these feuds pay off in a positive way. More often than not, WWE does not have these feuds pay off in a positive way, because it's almost like they get bored or they don't necessarily know how to pay off a long-term story in a positive way. Just throwing a few others out there, I think Dominic versus Ray is clearly a direction that they're going to go. If I did have to make a selection of somebody that's going to be in the Money in the Bank and has a serious opportunity to win, Finn Balor. Because Finn Balor is looked at as a reclamation project by Triple H, and that is something that I find very interesting and intriguing going into 2023. Long shot matches for me include Ronda Rousey defending the SmackDown Women's Championship and Bianca Belair and the Raw Women's title. I think it's too early to tell what's going to happen with the Raw Women's Championship, because I highly doubt that Bianca Belair is still going to be champion heading into WrestleMania. But I think maybe you can entice Sasha Banks or Naomi to come back if it means having a feud with Bianca Belair for the women's title. I would say maybe Naomi more than Sasha Banks, because, yes, Sasha and Bianca never had their rematch because Sasha was replaced by Becky Lynch, and then the money feud became Bianca and Becky. But I think that the other one that may have a clearer way to go is Becky Lynch finally getting her hands on Ronda Rousey and the SmackDown Women's Championship. I think Liv Morgan could work somewhere in there in the Money in the Bank match and get there. I think Shayna Baszler would be an interesting choice to be in Money in the Bank. Goldberg versus Gunther. It doesn't have to be for the Intercontinental title. It could be just a non-title match, but I think Goldberg versus Gunther is a match that we could see at WrestleMania, or Sheamus getting his rematch against Gunther, because as you can tell, based on how the match ended, there's still a bit of meat on the bone when it comes to Sheamus and Gunther, in my opinion, and that is the only title that Sheamus has never won as a member of the WWE roster, so there's a bit of intrigue there as well. And also, Steve Austin has been somebody that is talked about. Steve Austin is somebody that's been talked about as possibly having another match this year at WrestleMania. I think if you want to put him in the ring against anybody, let it be AJ Styles. because AJ is one of the most gifted wrestlers in the business. You already gave him Taker's last match. There is no reason why you can't give him Steve Austin's and give him another dream match and another WrestleMania moment to ride out into the sunset because AJ's career is almost over as well. As far as the matches that I think are most likely to happen, I think it is probably the highest percentage possible that WWE's ideal goal is to have The Rock versus Roman at WrestleMania, which means that I think most likely Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens will face the Usos for the Unified Tag Team titles at WrestleMania. And if I could bet money on it, I probably would. As far as the other matches, I think it is also probably second that the Money in the Bank will likely move to WrestleMania, maybe to replace the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal if they want to replace it. But I also think that if you're going to get rid of the gimmick pay-per-views, Money in the Bank has to go too. And then you move Money in the Bank to WrestleMania as opposed to having it in July like you did. So I think that the tag team title match is number one as far as the highest percentage, most likelihood to happen at WrestleMania. Money in the Bank is number two, and then The Rock versus Roman Reigns is number three, with Roman versus a replacement opponent, number four. But I think, and I'm calling it now, I will put that up there with the Unified Tag Team titles, that it is a very high likelihood that if The Rock and Roman fight on night one, we may see Roman fighting on night two as well. But I'm not 100% sure because WWE, I know, doesn't like doing that. They like giving two people the main event match at WrestleMania, especially considering the fact that WrestleMania is 2 nights. Maybe we'll see a women's match if Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey is happening for the SmackDown Women's title, which I actually will put that up there, replacing Roman's replacement opponent and maybe The Rock, because you never know with The Rock. So, in my opinion, Jimmy and Jay versus Kevin and Sami for the tag team titles, the Money in the Bank match, and Ronda versus Becky Lynch at WrestleMania next year are the 3 most likely matches I see happening this far out from WrestleMania. We'll see how well I did as we get closer to WrestleMania. We'll see how well I did with my guesses, and we'll see how many I got right. But this has been my thoughts on what to expect from WrestleMania. Let me know your thoughts on what you want to see at the first WrestleMania, not under Vince McMahon. Next year, let me know what you want to see at WrestleMania in the comment section below. And if you like content like this, then feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel because any and all interactions do help and give us more attention and get the videos to more people. So all of that does help. It makes the algorithm pay attention. And with that being said, before you go, do not forget to ding-dong that notification bell to always know when a new video is up on the channel. And I will see you again soon.